Thank you for joining me on today's YouTube video. I'm going to go really deep into something I don't think a lot of people even think about every day when it comes to how our government is ran. But I want to break down the illusion of power that the United States has been showing over time. This video is going to be short, sweet, and to the point. Before I get into it, I ask you guys to smash that like button. Think about subscribing to this page so that you can get more breakdowns of what's going on. Turn on post notifications so you'll know whenever I go live. Leave a comment below with video suggestions or just to, speak more into this topic, and share this video with someone who may be looking for this type of information. This might be exactly what they're looking for. So let's get straight into it. You've been told you live in a free country, that you have rights, a voice, a government, by the people, for the people. That's what they teach us in school. But what if I told you that that was illusion? In this video, I'm breaking down the real structure of what you call the United States. Not a republic, not a democracy, but a corporation. One that's been operating under military jurisdiction since the 1800s, where the president isn't your representative. He's the commander-in-chief, a CEO of a federal franchise. And you are registered into this system as a commercial asset, not a citizen with rights, but a subject with obligations. I'm not sharing this to scare you. I'm sharing it to wake you up. Because until you understand how deep the fraud goes, you'll keep playing by the rules that were never written for your freedom, especially so-called Black people. So listen close, take notes. What I'm about to show you will reframe everything you thought you knew about this so-called country. We're going to go deep into what they don't teach you in school. Today's presentation is titled The United States Power Illusion, From Republic to Military Corporate Control, a timeline they didn't teach you in school. Let's jump in. From 1776 to 1783, independence on paper. The colonies won the war, but not the money. The war was financed by Dutch and British bankers. The new nation was born in debt to the very crown it claimed to defeat. Freedom, only if you ignored who held the purse strings. When they first came over here as an act of rebellion to the British crown, they wanted to come over here to create something where they could have complete freedom. But from the very beginning, they didn't have the money to make that happen. And they already were in debt when they came over here because they were pretty much coming over here to gain access to resources so they can pay off the queen. 1789, the Constitution equals corporate charter. Many people don't know there are two constitutions. There are state constitutions and there's the federal constitution. There's also the original constitution that was the Moorish constitution written by the Moors, the true Moors, the owners of this land, not the Moors that have been infiltrated, that's going on about to this day. Way before all of that, the Moorish, being to be Moorish or to be a Moor was a status of sovereignty. Okay, the Constitution wasn't liberation, it was a framework for governance. First department created was the Department of War in the United States. That was the very first department that they created upon establishment. Why would they want to do that? Because they knew for them to come on this land to start the wars they needed to start to take over land that was already preoccupied by the true owners, they had to create a department where they had defense. And they later did name it to the department, rename it to the Department of Defense. As a matter of fact, what's his name? Donald Trump actually wants to rename it the Department of War again. But the mission was to secure the land, silence the natives, which were the so-called Black people, and protect creditor interests. 1791 was when the first central bank appeared. This is the Bank of the United States launch with a 20-year Rothschild-backed charter. From day one, this was a managed financial zone, not a sovereign republic. So the United States came in, waged war, and then created their first bank. This bank was backed by the Rothschilds, which we know are Jewish, which are originally Khazarians who renamed themselves, took on an identity that does not belong to them. But they're the ones who backed the money for this corporation that already started off in debt. 1861 to 1871, Civil War, bankruptcy, and emergency rule. Let's go over the timeline of power. Lincoln governed under martial law. The whole time that Lincoln was in office as the president, it was martial law enacted. A lot of people always say, "Oh, they're going to bring martial law," but in all actuality, if you look back at a lot of history, martial law has already been enacted many times. The Constitution was suspended and never truly restored. So around that time, when Lincoln was operating under martial law, he suspended the Constitution, and the Constitution really was never restored after that. Because after that, many people don't even really know. They can't even tell you what the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh amendments are, and they are the most like ones that I think everybody should know. But 1871 is when Congress created the corporate United States, also known as the District of Columbia. And 1871 was the creation of the United States Corporation. The Republic became a municipal corporation at that time. 1913 to 1933 is when the banking families took over the throne. So in 1913, the Federal Reserve Act gave private bankers control over the United States currency. So these private bankers, also known as the Khazarian Mafia, also known today as the Jewish people, which are still in control of the banking, are also known as the banking cartel. And their control is over the currency of the United States and within the operations of the United States Corporation. So the United States becomes a debt instrument managed by global syndicates, and the illusion of sovereignty was dead. 1933 is total financial takeover. So gold was confiscated, Emergency Banking Act was passed, and citizens were reclassified as enemies of the state. The reason why they reclassified us as enemies of the state during that time is because, okay, let's start at 1929, the Great Depression. During that time, the population was drastically decreased because there was a sickness called the Spanish flu that killed a lot of people. Also, during that time, they started the orphan trains and the incubator babies in Coney Island and Ellis Island in New York, where people could go and buy babies that were created through cloning incubators. Don't believe me? Go look it up. Don't argue with me. This stuff really this is real history that they've hidden. They would never teach you this in school. So during that time, we were also fighting as the American Negro Indian. In 1925, they had passed an act, I forget the name of it, where they pretty much wanted us to stop classifying ourselves as Indians. They wanted us to take on a new reclassification that made us further away from what we are. So that takes more ownership of this land away from us, and they took more land from us. Pretty much it was a big land acquisition where they flooded a lot of black towns. They burnt a lot of black towns down, and it was a huge land acquisition where they switched over the banking system. They had a lot more of us under their control because they took our gold from us. They also had us do the walk on the Trail of Tears years before, and at this time, they wanted to bring out this birth certificate system, which was how they collateralized us as federal debt. Now, with this birth certificate system, every soul that is born, we're going to make it where they're mandated to have their children in the hospital. Mandates are not laws, are not rights. So that means you don't have to do it. But if it's a mandate, most people think that it's mandatory to do it. And so people have their babies in these hospitals. As soon as every soul is born, we slap them with a birth certificate, and that birth certificate then makes them labor debt slaves and collateral surety for the federal debt. Common law was buried at that time, and Admiralty military commercial law took over. So laws were shaped to benefit corporate interests preferentially and not the people. So at that point, the corporations were in control, and that's what all of the modern day wars like Iraq, like Syria, any of those wars that took place, they had something to do with this financial takeover being enacted in their land or on their land. 1947, Department of War and the Department of Defense. So the Department of War changed its name, but they changed their name, but the enemy did too. So there were no foreign nations. Now the enemy was you, the occupied population. So they changed you from being foreign from their jurisdiction. They took your foreign status and they made you an enemy of the state. Because in order for us to use these Federal Reserve notes that are connected to this fiat currency banking system, in order a fractional banking system, for us to use the Federal Reserve notes, we have to be in constant state of emergency. So they always keep us in a state of emergency. And the only people really that are supposed to be using those is the board of directors, which are only 7 people. So they're the only ones who are supposed to be lawfully using Federal Reserve notes. But every time that we use Federal Reserve notes, it makes us an enemy of the state. And it's all done by design to keep us under the federal military jurisdiction. So they changed the Department of War to soften the name, and they changed it to the Department of Defense. And now we are the enemy, so they have to defend their assets against us, the people. Corporate interests manipulate laws for profit and power. 1973 to present, the full administrative state. The United States is a military commercial district. You are a registered asset in that system. All courts equal military commercial tribunals unless you know how to move jurisdiction, which many people don't. Jurisdiction is power. You don't live under law, you live under contractual control systems. Common law applies to living men and women, was controlled by pre-1861 America, and the purpose was to preserve the justice and rights of the people. It's buried, but it is not dead, which means we can bring it back and live according to it again. Chancery is applied to trust and estates. It's controlled by the Vatican and the Crown. And the purpose is managing beneficiaries and trustees to make sure that the trustees are doing what benefits the beneficiaries. You are in a trust that you don't even know exists. And that trust is called a Sesta KV trust. And every man born under this system has one. Okay? And it's also known as an estate, because the entity that was created based off of your name is a fictitious entity. It is not breathing. It is dead. It's not living. It's a corporation, corpse. That's why they call it that. Also in the military, Marine Corps, Maritime law applies to commerce, contracts, cargo, and you are the cargo. You are the vessel. And it's controlled by the British Crown legal system, and the purpose is to govern debt and property as commerce. That courtroom is a port, and you're the cargo. It's a dry dock vessel, and you're the vessel that goes in and parks in its on its dock when you go in. All right. It is operating outside of its jurisdiction, but we give it jurisdiction when we go in, and we play according to their rules. All right. Now, the British Crown and the Vatican hold two separate powers, which we'll talk about, but let's keep going. We'll talk about it. Military law applies to occupied territories and is controlled by the Department of Defense and the Commander-in-Chief, also known as the President. The purpose is permanent war governance since 1986. It has been put into place to make sure that we are under a permanent state of emergency, because we are always waging war, even if it's a hate crime, even if it's something racial discrimination. Those things is what will keep us under this particular system or branch of jurisdiction, because if it's something that has to do with race, that is automatically putting you into their racial classifications, which each racial classification has its own meaning to, which I might make a video about, because this stuff goes deep. Commercial code. This applies to all commerce, contracts, and banking. It's controlled by international banking cartel, which is also known as the Khazarians, also known as the Jews, the little hats. And its purpose is to replace common law with corporate rules. So every time that you go into a courtroom, you have the opportunity to either act under this jurisdiction, which is replacing common law, or you can act under equity or chancery, which is for trust in estates. And this is how you're supposed to be acting. So equity and chancery is private, and uniform commercial code is public. I hope that makes a lot of sense because a lot of people get these things mixed up, but there's a difference. There's a distinction between public and private, and it's all by design. Statutory administrative law. This applies to 14th Amendment citizens, which are controlled by the corporate U.S. municipal government, and its purpose is to grant privileges and not rights. So if you have a driver's license, if you have a state ID, if you have a birth certificate, if you have a social security number, you are a 14th Amendment citizen because you have things that put you under their jurisdiction, in their jurisdiction. You hold things that pretty much are the identification of those who are registered within their system. It's like no different than prison, people in prison having a number, no different than the people in the military having a number. It's all the same. You're registered within their system, which puts you under statutory administrative law. And the lower courts that are not Article 3 courts, these lower courts operate under statutory administrative law. Key point, you are governed under military commercial law because you are legally classified as a person, not a man or a woman. And if you're a so-called Black person and you're classified as African American or Black, that puts you even further under military commercial law, which makes you an instant prisoner of war due to what happened to our ancestors. So every case equals a property claim, your name, your body, your labor, your birth certificate. So who really owns the game? It's not about conspiracy. It's about jurisdictional tiers of global control. Let's go into it. So tier 1 is the Vatican, and they control spiritual ownership and global law, trust law. So when they first docked their ships here on the American soil, they brought the Bible with them. They brought their religion with them. They brought their ideologies with them. That is the first key to colonizing a land, is to bring your religion with you as a gift to the natives. So if you teach them something that to you is bigger than what it is, they will believe it because they don't have no reason not to. So giving the religion of the Vatican to them. Now, the Pope also declared things like the doctrine of discovery, which allowed them to find land and pretty much declare the land as discovered under them, and then kind of take over under that doctrine. They also have the Dum Diversas, and these are papal bulls. And these papal bulls allow them to enslave the inhabitants of the land that they touch. Any land they touch, they can colonize, enslave, give them their religion, and what they call civilize these particular people that were already indigenous to the lands they were on when these people arrived. So the Vatican brought their religion, and the Vatican also brought the beginning of colonization. So again, some tools is the canon law and papal bulls, which I just talked about. And the legacy is Unum Sanctum 1302, which says all souls belong to the church. You guys can look this up. Tier 2 is the British Crown, and they control legal systems and admiralty jurisdiction. Their tools is the Bar Association and corporate charters. So we know all about the Bar Association. We know that British Association is just a membership. It's no different than joining a gym and paying a monthly membership, but this protects all of their judges and lawyers, and they all operate. They have control over how they operate and make sure that they stay statutory. All of these members that are under the Bar Association, they make sure that they stay statutory. This British Crown is based in the city of London. It is not the UK. Okay. Tier 3 is the banking syndicates, which controls the currency, the interest and debts. Think about the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, the BIS, the Federal Reserve, and bond markets. It's dominated by Rothschild link networks and Ashkenazi financiers, which are also known as the Little Hats, the Jewish, the banking cartel. These ones are the ones who are in control of what the government chooses to do with the people when it comes to the federal government, when it comes to the presidents. They will buy a president if they have to. I don't know if you guys remember, but Donald Trump a few years ago during his first term was supposed to be Christian. Well, I think right before he became president this second term, well, the banking cartel got him, and now he is a practicing Jewish. I don't know what their religion. I forget their religion. Kabbalah. Yeah, he be at the wall with them. So they got him. They bought him out. And so whatever these banking cartels want to happen within media, within the world, which we call the world stage, these ones here are in control of how that will play out. Now the British Crown is in control of how the court systems work. So no justice, no peace, because we are considered Black on paper or African American. So we are written out of the Constitution, labeled 3/5 human, and pretty much the word Black in their legal dictionaries means civilly dead. So you have no rights. You are pretty much you're a 14th Amendment citizen, also an enemy of the state, a prisoner of war, and you are under the 13th Amendment, which allows them to pretty much legally put you back into slavery at will. You have no rights in their system if you're Black or African American. And then the Vatican is in control of your churches. It's in control of your nonprofit organizations. It's in control of what people believe in when it comes to spiritual beliefs. So they gave you the Bible to take over your land and to wage war on you. Once they waged war, they created legal systems, which are all fictional paper systems that reclassified you, turned you into what they want you to be within their system so that they can handle you the way they want to, and create associations that keep the scales in balance. And then they created a banking system that can be in charge of if you can get funding, which is credit, can be in charge if you can buy land or homes, can be in control of what you spend, how much you spend, where you live, and things of that nature. The system isn't racist to a degree, it's just jurisdictional, because you are not owned because of color or skin color. You're owned because you register into their system through the birth certificate, the social security, the passport, mortgage, and license. All of these are contracts into their jurisdiction, and they know this. So what they do is create their own systems and make it seem like, hey, you want to get into this club, then you got to do this. And if you don't do this, well, you can't get in, you can't get these benefits and privileges. But the whole time you are looking from the outside in, thinking that you want to get into this club. When you get into that club, the club is full of gimmicks and tricks, and it takes and takes and takes and doesn't give anything back. But if you stayed on the outside and really looked around you, you would see that outside of these systems, I am free, I am sovereign, I can do as I please, I can govern myself. So my question for you guys, and I want you guys to answer this in the chat if you made it to this point in the video. My question to you guys is, with everything that's going on in the United States government today with Donald Trump and all of this stuff that's on the table, do you think that the U.S. Constitution is going to be reexamined publicly, specifically the 14th Amendment, when it talks about the baby following the belly and this immigration thing with birthright citizenship? Do you think that the truth will be put on the table, or do you think they will try to lie again? We're at a point of critical mass, so it's kind of like the scales can tip either way. But with all that's going on, do you think that the truth about this system is finally going to be revealed? Put your answer in the comments below if you made it to this point in the video. Question everything. They didn't enslave your body. They enslaved your consent. They enslaved your mind. Until you reclaim jurisdiction, you remain a cargo class citizen in a military commercial system. Study the remedy, learn the codes, move with precision and not emotion. And this concludes today's presentation. If you are interested in anything that I teach, everything's in that link below. In that description box below. All my links are in the description box below. If you're interested in joining the DTB community, what are you waiting for? We will be happy to welcome you. There's so much value that I know you can take from this community. But even if you're unable to join our community, our private community, subscribe to this channel and watch all of these videos. All of this stuff is free information for you guys to open your mind and take you to the next level, because we have been lied to about everything. And when you unlearn those lies and put back into your mind that you are a free being and you are you have a birthright to specific things, and you stand on that, your life will change forever. Like my picture says, the government will violate the Constitution for as long as it can get away with it. It's up to you to make the stand and the change. I thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment below, turn on post notifications so that you'll know whenever I go live. You won't miss the video. And I'll see you guys.